Welcome to Adventure Freaks, a podcast on living abroad on a budget.
Woohoo! We're on the air, Angela, and your last name's Alexander, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. So today we're going down south again to Guatemala, and we're with our friend, our new amiga here, Angela Alexander, and she's originally from Michigan, and she's an entrepreneur, she is an expat, she's a restaurateur, and she's living in this really sensational area called Antigua Guatemala. And if you've never been there, it is a really special place. I spent some time there. It's a colonial Spanish town, not far, about maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes from Guatemala City.
Yeah, about 40 minutes. We're
Yeah.
like technically 18 miles, but you got to go through some serious mountains. So,
Yeah, you go through some
yeah.
serious mountains, and then when you land in this beautiful town, it's got cobblestone streets, tremendous history, and it's surrounded by, is it three volcanoes?
Yeah, we have 3 volcanoes.
Okay.
And like the main one you see in the pictures is Agua, but that one's a dormant volcano. But it literally is like 3 kilometers from the base of the town. Like you're right at the base of it. And then we have Fuego, and Fuego's pretty active. He likes to go off like every 8 minutes. So
Wow.
yeah, and then there's another one right next to that one. So
Nice. Yeah,
there's
so
different
it's a
ones.
really special place. I spent some time down there, and I spent some time shooting some photography and doing some blog work, and really met some incredibly wonderful people. And it's so colorful, and I just immersing yourself in that Mayan culture around there is really sensational as well. It's just a unique place. So my first question to you, Angela, out of all of the places in Central America, Guatemala is never really one of those places on the radar. It's
No,
typically,
it wasn't on my radar.
yeah, it's like Costa Rica is big, Belize, because
Belize is
Belize,
big
Belize has always been hot because it's the only Central American country that speaks English, that's a,
and uses a dollar.
yeah,
Yeah,
and they use the dollar, so it makes a lot of
yeah,
things easy. How did you land in Guatemala of all places?
yeah. I ask myself that a lot too because it like if you would have ever in my I'm 43, and if you would have ever asked like where would you end up, Guatemala would never like it would have been so far down. It probably would have been like with Pakistan, like just so far down on the list. Like I never would have ended up there. And we went to Colombia for a Spanish school. We have 4 kids, ranging now from 18 all the way down to 3. And
Wow.
when our little boy, he's our 3-year-old, when he was born, we ended up going to Colombia to a Spanish school because we couldn't find any Spanish schools that allowed us to have our children with us.
Hmm.
And we were like, the teenagers needed to be in lessons. The little one she was 3 at the time. She needed to be in a preschool just so she could be a part of a culture.
Mhm.
And I needed to be with my baby. And there was a school in Colombia that allowed that. They
Mhm.
were new. They were like, yeah, we'll take anybody. And they took all 6 of us. And we stayed on property there. And we just asked, it also was a hostel. So it was a school and a hostel. So you got a lot of all different age people, a lot of the backpackers, a lot of people doing their second life. So we just started asking, where do we go next? Where do we go with these kids? Because Medellin is very big. Medellin, Colombia, it's very big.
Sure. Yeah.
And we're from a very, very, very small town in Michigan, like 800 people. So Medellin was overwhelming just
Mhm.
because of the size. And we said, we want a small town. We want somewhere that's safe for our kids, somewhere that has activities. And um, Cuenca, Cuenca, Ecuador kept coming up. Like that was like, everybody kept saying Cuenca, and then everybody kept saying Antigua. So it was like we had this split. Um, And the reason why we chose this over Cuenca was because they had a swim team here in town, and our kids are competitive swimmers, our older girls. They're competitive swimmers, and there was a team here. They communicated with my husband. They were like, yeah, we'll take your girls, even if it's 6 months or 3 months or whatever, we're happy to have them. It was a small town, and I said, okay, let's just do that one. So that's how we ended up here, was really the ability to have our kids in sports and still be in a small walkable town.
Yeah. So did you guys,
Yeah.
when you first arrived um, in Guatemala, you did you go to Antigua and go, wow, this is really a special place? Did it pique your interest when you landed in Antigua?
Well, I have a horrible like quirk about me that I don't really investigate anywhere I go. Like it was a small town. They had a swim team. Cool. Let's just do it. Let's find a house on Airbnb. Let's like go. So when we were on the plane here, like people were like, "Oh, you're going to the Beverly Hills of Guatemala," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" I had no idea. I was like so green. So I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then we got off, and it was a little overwhelming because the airport back then, pre-COVID, it's better now, but pre-COVID, it was very overwhelming. People coming at you and speaking Spanish and wanting to grab your bags and help, and it was just like so much. And I had a baby, and it was a lot. But then when we got to Antigua, it was very charming. It's very small. People are super nice. Um, what I love sincerely most about Antigua, and it's very unique only to Antigua, it's not a Guatemala thing, is the architecture.
Yeah.
It's it's like it's I can't even explain how beautiful it is. And I always tell people from the road it kind of looks ugly. It's all straight buildings, you know, clay roofs, and everything's kind of dirty because you're under a volcano. Like literally you're under it. So it's everything's ashy and dirty. And you're kind of like, what is going on? And then you walk in a building and it's like nothing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like the woodwork, the metal work, the tiles. It's my favorite thing about this place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful place, and there's so many little, it's really become kind of hot and like a hipster mecca
I don't
in
I
Guatemala, because there's
I
like,
don't even know how. Like
yeah, it's like
it's so funny.
but there's like all kinds of, yeah, there's restaurants. So you're starting your own restaurant. What kind of a restaurant are you going to be opening there?
We're actually starting a pizza restaurant, and we're gonna hopefully eventually have a chain. We love Guatemala, we love Central America, we love South America, so hopefully we can just make it into a chain here. It's called Wilders, which is actually our son's name,
Okay,
Wilder.
cool.
And Spanish people say it kind of funny though, so I'm gonna work on it, but they all
We
say Wielder.
Wielder, yeah.
Wielder, but it's Wilders. So we're opening that. So we rented a building right downtown. Like we're probably four casas or four buildings down from Central Park. Like you can see it from my bedroom window, right? So upstairs is our house, and then below is the restaurant. And we were really lucky to get this property. COVID kind of made a lot of things available here. Um, and so we got it in May, and then we left. We signed papers on a Friday, and then we were like gone by Sunday. So it's been opening a business in another country in a language that you're iffy on is really intense.
Yeah.
And I've been a business person my entire life. Like I worked for someone when I was 18, you know, like that's like the extent of my working life, and I'm 43. So I've literally managed businesses and owned businesses, and wow, you would think it would be easy because it's Guatemala.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
if you're
yeah.
going to do it legally.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
lot of hoops you got to jump through down there. And and
It's
it's like anything
crazy.
else. You sound like you're really a savvy businesswoman, and you know how to make it work in the US, but now you're in
It's all
Central
different.
America, and it's a whole different game down there. You're right.
And it's different. And I'm trusting people. And in the States, I can go and like legally read everything and like, and here it's like, okay, I gotta trust this person. And to open a bank account here has been a nightmare. Like,
Wow.
yeah, it's been really crazy.
Yeah.
So
Well, let's talk about this building that you rented. What is the cost of it, like a commercial building? If somebody has an interest in doing that, what do they charge you per month?
yeah, well, our building's really nice and it's like literally like prime location. So we pay 4,000 a month,
Oh, wow.
and I know, but we have to emotionally realize that half of that's living, half of that's business.
Right.
Um, our actually, and the way that we project our business to be running, we probably won't be living there long. It will be all business.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to put in context Antigua, and Antigua was just listed travel and leisure's #1 city in all of Central and South America.
Mm.
So Antigua itself is kind of like, I was telling my friend, because she's moving to Ecuador and she's showing me these houses for 550 with a pool and 4 bedrooms, and she's like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, but you have to like put in perspective that Antigua is kind of like a super mini, like Soho, New York. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's this little metropolis of like insanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and there's only 47,000 people here,
Yeah.
but yet it's crazy. So I'll give you a couple examples of the houses we've had.
Okay.
And remember, I have there's 6 of us, so we have 4 kids.
Yeah.
Um, because we've traveled all over the world, I tend to kind of stay within a budget, whatever my budget is, and then I find a house within that. So if I'm in Florida and I'm spending 3,000 a month, then I would spend 3,000 a month here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily come here to save money.
Gotcha.
But our very first house was 1,800 a month. It was 4 bedrooms. It was gorgeous.
Mm.
It was gorgeous. Woodwork, metalwork, everything that you just love about a house it had. It was in a gated community. It was safe. It was walkable to the city, to Antigua. We were right on the outskirts of Antigua, but I wouldn't walk alone as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't let my kids walk. But as long as I had my husband, you can walk to town. That was 1,800 a month, and we stayed there twice actually.
Okay.
And then we came back and we had a house that was 2,800. And that was kind of, everybody called it like a castle house. It had that very like castle feel, exposed rocks, really beautiful. That one was 4 bedrooms too. It had a really pretty courtyard, gated community, super safe. That one was right at town. Like we were only maybe 3 blocks from the market. So that one was super safe. Also, the police station was right there, the tourism police. Mm-hmm. Here we have tourism police because language barriers and things.
Sure.
So that was right at the corner of our property. That was 2,800. But all that being said, I'll give you some budget too. Okay. So there's 2 towns that are next to us, Hocotenango and Ciudad Vieja. And you can go to either one of those towns and literally cut it by a third.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so when we were looking and we ended up with our building, we were looking actually for a farm or for somewhere to start a language school. So we were looking on the outskirts, and we saw everything from $1,000 a month to $5,000 a month. We were just searching for what we needed. My employee here has a really, really cute 3-bedroom house, furnished, and it's $575 a month.
Mm-hmm. What town is that in?
It's in Antigua. It's right at the edge of Antigua.
Okay.
Right. You can find houses here in Antigua. I would say somewhere between 500 to 1,000 for a 3-bedroom house.
For a 3-bedroom. So how about for like an apartment? Like an apartment, 1 bedroom or 2-bedroom?
Right. There's a lot of places around here that you can get them for like $250 to $350 a month.
Okay.
And especially if you're willing to live in Hocotenango or Ciudad Vieja. Hocotenango is closer.
Have you seen any of the apartments? Are they nice?
Yeah, it's questionable. Like some will be very just like through a back alley and you get a room.
Yeah.
Others are super nice. We're also looking at a hotel here because we're always looking for possibilities of everything. So we're like looking at hotels. Last night my husband found it was a really nice hotel, like a cute little room, and it was like 25 a night
Mm-hmm.
for a hotel. So
Yeah.
people, if they wanted to come vacation here for like 2 weeks, getting a hotel would be, you know, I'd budget 35 a night and you'd be good.
Yeah. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so you can find so people can find places for 250, 350 an apartment.
Yeah.
And if you do your
Yeah.
research, you could probably find a pretty nice place. Does that include utilities?
For the apartments, usually if it's short term, and that's why I like using Airbnb, which would not be that cheap, but Airbnb always includes everything. Like I've been in Airbnbs here where they've tried to make me pay for propane, and I'm like, yeah, that's not in the Airbnb like line of, what I need to be responsible for. So you also just have to be aware of what's in your lease or what's
Yeah.
in your whatever your contract is.
Mm-hmm.
But everything, if you did say have to pay for propane, they literally just bring it on the back of a moto to your house. Like everything's very delivered right to your door here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
convenient,
So
right?
yeah, and there's a lot of apartments right down here. Like I'm right downtown. So right in the downtown area, there's a lot of apartments. Um, there's apartments like the first community that we lived in was called San Bartolome, and that has everything from like 2 bedrooms for like 400 a month up to, if you rented it from the company, I rented it from an owner and I paid
Okay.
1800,
Yeah.
fully furnished. Um, if you rent it right from the company, I want to say it's like 1200,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be semi furnished.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, and what is these houses that you're talking of that are really the 3 bedroom homes for, five, $600?
Yeah.
Can you purchase those?
You can. Purchasing here is more expensive. I do want to speak on that for 1 second on the rent side, because I was at my girlfriend's house yesterday. It's the first time I had been to her house, and her house was gorgeous in this gated community. It was huge. It had a really here we have like courtyards in our homes, not necessarily backyards. We have them like with fountains and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So she has this beautiful courtyard. She had a bunch of outdoor space. There's in Guatemala, and especially in Antigua, everything's indoor outdoor. So you have these big walkways that your kitchen, you don't come downstairs and go right into your kitchen. You go outside and then into your kitchen through a
Mm-hmm.
courtyard. So that's just how it's set up here. But she had a patio, 4 bedroom house. It was gorgeous. And she told me she pays 850.
Okay.
That was unfurnished, but 850. I
Yeah.
was like, dang. Huh?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a
Nice.
little bit out of town. Yeah, she's a little bit out of town, but not too far, about 5 minutes out of town.
Yeah.
But as far as purchasing here, it's insane.
Okay.
Rent. There's no reason to purchase here unless you are just trying to like set your money somewhere. But as a foreigner to invest in here, it's just a pain unless you have full cash.
Gotcha.
It's very expensive. So I would say the building that we're in is probably, what would you say? I'm asking my husband. I would say probably a $2 to $4 million property
Oh, wow. So it is
because of
really
where it's
high there.
located.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And even just like we were looking at anything back in the early part of this year because we were looking for any opportunity, and our realtor was showing us little plots of land like you'd see in a subdivision, small. And he's like, "This is 175,000." I'm like, "What?" It wasn't even in town. It was like, I'm like, "This is insane."
Yeah.
So there is a really kind of hippie eco lodge kind of it's called Eco Lodge, but it's up in the hills here, and they're selling that, and that's right under 2 million. And I'm
Wow.
like,
Okay.
that's a lot. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, you know
yeah,
what? It sounds like Antigua has really been discovered. And it is
yeah,
it is truly a beautiful place. And when I was there, I was just in
yeah,
awe of the beauty, the cobblestone streets, the colors, the indigenous culture that's around, and plus there's like right around the corner a cigar bar that you can, go get a great cigar with wine. And there's like all kinds of
Yeah,
really amazing restaurants all over Antigua, which makes it, like you say, kind of like a Soho vibe and feel of New York City.
yeah,
So
yeah. And the
it's
prices are equal to that. So like, but then you can go down and get fresh tortillas from, one of the local ladies. They're everywhere. And you can just go down and get them for like less than $1, and you can get like a stack of tortillas.
yeah,
So it's all different, I
sure.
have a lot of friends here that shop for me because they do call it like the gringo tax, so the
Yeah,
price is always like twice as much for me. My hair is blonde and it's like screams like I'm American, so or a foreigner. So it's good to have some friends here that can go do some shopping for you.
sure. What are
Yeah.
groceries a month? If you were like a single person, what would you spend typically on groceries per month there? If it was just you?
If Right, if it was just me and I was eating local,
Yeah.
I would say, and not eating out at like, the crazy expensive places, just like normal. I would say probably 200 a month.
Okay, 200 a
Everything
month
you
for
could get by.
groceries. What's transportation like getting around? How much does that cost?
Well, if you're right in the city and you don't necessarily need to go to like Guatemala City, if you're right in Antigua, it's it's completely walkable. Like yesterday was the first time we've been here again. We left for the summer. We came back. We've been here 3 weeks. Yesterday was the first time I got an Uber. So it's completely walkable from one side of the town to the other. It's very small, but if you wanted to grab an Uber, say you like out at night and you just don't want to walk at dark or whatever, anywhere in town is less than $2. It's like 15 casal. Well, I guess it's $2, so 15 casal is $2. So
Okay.
um, to get to San Lucas, which has some stores, San Lucas is about $5 in an Uber
Okay.
one way.
Mm-hmm.
So Ubers are really reliable here. There's some really good Uber drivers. Um, there's also we've had an Uber driver that we have worked with since we first arrived, like 3.5 years ago, and he is now almost like our personal driver. So we
Mm-hmm.
just call him up and we're like, "Hey, we need to go to the city." He takes us to the city. Last time we were here, we had a lot of medical things that we were having done. We were getting some stuff done with our teeth, and we were just in the city constantly. So I just pay them well and have them take us to the city. Like for a whole day trip to the city, I usually pay about $40, but I'm talking like all day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk how much like for entertainment. What do you guys spend on entertainment? To go out, go to a restaurant, per month. I mean,
Right.
what can people on a budget get by on if you go to like the local restaurants where they're, you're eating the typical food there. What are you going
Right.
to spend
Well,
on
I'm at a
entertainment?
restaurant right now. Let's look at a menu. I've literally got a menu right here. So right
Nice.
now I'm at the Snug, which is like they have a really cool patio and you can see all the mountains even though you can't really in the video, but it's an Irish pub. So it's not like necessarily local, but it's Irish and they're cool. So like a loaded nacho, because I'm a nacho person, a loaded nacho is 40 Q with chicken is 55. So that's about $6, 650 US dollars for if you want chicken on it.
Mm-hmm.
Which honestly, because I'm opening a restaurant, I've been looking at prices everywhere, and I find that this 55 to 65 is a really comfortable 55 to 65 Q casal is a very comfortable price for people here.
Mm-hmm.
Like this five to $6 7 range is
Sure.
is a meal. And then let's look at their drinks. Their Irish coffee is 35 Q, so that would be like $4, 450. Um, that has alcohol in it though. So um, beers are depending on like the time of day because sometimes they'll have 2 for 1. But beers typically like a local one, and their local beer is good here. It's better than Colombia's beer. Um, Their local beer is usually like 23Q. So that's like that's like $3, 275
Okay.
for a beer.
Okay.
Which
Well,
actually is so weird because when I'm here, I'm always like, oh, 20Q, 20Q, 20Q. And then in the States, it's just weird because like my mentality is different here.
yeah, yeah.
I feel like it's not like so much to throw out 20Q here, you
Sure.
know?
Sure. So basically entertainment, could you get by on 100 a month, 150 a month? I mean, for entertainment?
I couldn't, but
No.
but I guess I'm a little bougie. I don't know. I couldn't, but I mean, I guess if I was single and I only went out, you know, like on Fridays or Saturdays, had a couple drinks, I think you could get by with 150.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say
Yeah,
150. All right. And
yeah.
then what is healthcare like there? What are you guys doing for healthcare?
Um, so we actually have had some experiences with healthcare here. All the way back when we first came here, my daughter, my second daughter, just she has random things that they classify as panic attacks, but I don't really think that's what they are. And she was at the swimming center. She had just gotten done with a dance class, was getting ready to swim. My husband was in a building on the property adjacent to it, but not on the property. It was the first time we'd ever like not been there with them. She was probably 14 at the time, and she had an attack.
Mm.
They ended up calling the ambulance. The ambulance came. They were like, you need to have her checked out, whatever. So I took her to a cardiologist because her heart rate was all crazy. We have a cardiologist in town. I took her. He said he checked her, and then he was like, I was like, can we get a stress test on her? And he said, well, we don't really do stress tests on kids this young, but we can if you want. And I was like, no, I do want. And he said, well, it's kind of expensive. I was like, how much? He was like 700Q, which is basically $100. And I was like, $100 for a stress test? You know what this would cost me in the States? Like probably 2,500. Like, no, like let's do that right now. So we did
Hmm.
it. So getting that done was really easy. Other little things were a little bit more difficult, like with our baby. It was like, here, take some herbs, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense what we're doing. Like, I'm all for natural healing, but it was one of those situations that was like, okay, I don't think this is gonna work. So that was a little different. We also, my one daughter had to have a cavity filled in Florida because we're actually residents of Florida. We changed our residency a couple years ago, but she had to have a cavity filled in Florida. And I noticed by the doctor's last name that he was Spanish, you know, and I was like, ooh, I wonder where he's from because it's the same last name as my worker here. And he ended up being from Guatemala.
Wow.
Odd. So I know, so weird. So we got to talking, and I was telling him, you know, like we were looking at getting some work done, and he said, "This is the name of the dentist that I would see if I had to have work done." And he's in Guatemala City. He's like, "I would go to Guatemala City to have this done." And I said, "Okay." So I called up this doctor, like WhatsApped him, you know, and got an appointment immediately when we were returning like in a week, and I got an appointment immediately, and we both my husband and I had like all of our bottoms done, and I'm getting my top teeth done when
Hmm.
like this year on this visit. So
Nice.
yeah, so I guess for a price on that, I literally had like all of my bottom teeth capped. I have a bone disorder. My teeth were starting to break just because my bone does. I don't have collagen protein in
Hmm.
my bone and skin. So my teeth were starting to break. So we recapped every tooth I have, and it was about 7,000. But if I
Okay.
got that in the States, that would be 40,000 at least, just for
Yeah.
my bottoms.
Oh yeah.
And here it was so cool because we didn't pay until the end. And in the States, they'll charge you for x-rays, they'll charge you for per visit, they'll charge you, I mean, any little thing they can charge you for,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, they will. Here it wasn't like that. It was like, there's a helicopter, which is rare. I don't know if you can hear it.
Yeah, I
Like
can.
right over me.
Ooh, that's cool. Ooh.
Yeah, Like we get like one come through a day, I think. Oh, that one's a medic one. That one's a red one. They're probably going to the city. So yeah, it was basically came out to like 3,500 Q a tooth. It's about $425 a tooth, I guess.
Yeah.
And in the States, I could never have done that. So then,
Yeah.
and I was referred to him by a U.S. doctor.
I know, that's great. I know.
It's crazy, and his office was like totally state of the art. It was gorgeous. It was in the city. I also had my tubes tied here because I had 4 kids, and I was like getting to be like 40, and I was done.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I had my tubes tied here, which was a little bit of a different experience than having it done in the States. So in the States, I didn't have insurance that would cover that, and they were telling me it would be base of 7,000, and that was like no complications, just like, and that didn't even count anesthesia, which could have been another 7.
Sure.
So here I got some recommendations. I found a doctor in the city. She also trained in Colombia. When I went to that surgery, we had to get there really early in the morning. It was almost like a clinic. It wasn't a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a clinic. I went in, they just wheeled me back. I ended up having complications I would have had in the States just because of like my collagen problem that I have with my bones.
Yeah.
So I ended up having a little bit more complications than we thought, but the price she gave me was the price I paid. And when I went for my follow-up, I was going to pay them for my follow-up visit, and they were like, you already paid everything.
Oh, wow.
I was like, what? Like, it was just one price. That's what you pay.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So that was really cool.
Well, you know what? I mean, what you've learned and what you've gone through, I mean, there are so many people that are going out of the country now from the U.S. And it's, the medical tourism is growing big time. And there's a lot of doctors that they get educated in America. They're in the U.S. and then they leave and they go back to their country and they open up a practice. So there's plenty of doctors that are well trained, and it's super affordable compared to America.
Right. Well, my dentist here, his name's De La Cruz, Jorge De La Cruz, and he was actually one of the professors at Rochester School of Dentistry.
Sure.
In New York. So he was trained, I think in Texas, and then he went to New York. But his dad had a dental practice here. So he came back to partner with his dad and, raise his kids here. He's in the city. He has a place in the city, and then he has an office right here in Antigua.
Yeah. So it sounds like pretty much you guys are just rolling by paying cash because it's it's so affordable. So if there's something that happens, you might talk with your doctor back in Florida and then determine what you're going to do. To obviously save some money, but it seems like it's quite affordable in Guatemala.
If you have money. So here's the thing about Guatemala. If you are here just backpacking and you don't have $100 to your name, and something happens and you end up in the national hospital, like, God help you. Like, it's the national hospital here is literally terrifying. And I can't even stress how terrifying it is. So if you are going to come to Guatemala, make sure that you have a credit card that has some money, or you have parents that are going to send you $5,000 if you need it, or, you got a little bit of cash, because this is not a place that you want to get hurt and not be prepared.
Gotcha.
Yeah. There was a kid who is my employee's best friend. A couple of years ago, they were walking down the street, and then a car hit him from behind. That's another thing here. Cars do not care if you were in their way.
Yeah.
So you have to be very cautious about cars and motos here. But a car hit him from behind, and he like shattered his leg. He ended up in the national hospital, and I got some money together to help figure it all out. But he sat in the hospital with a broken leg for almost 2 weeks because nobody would pay to have a $250 bolt so he could have the surgery he needed. $250. Like,
wow.
This kid who was 15 just sat in the hospital suffering. And I was like, oh my gosh, like how much does this cost? And then when I found out it was like $250, I was like, what are we doing? Like, let's get this kid okay, you know?
Wow, that's
So,
really puzzling, man. I mean,
right. And
all doctors have to do the Hippocratic oath. You would think that
right,
they would not let somebody sit there and suffer in
right.
pain.
So in the US, what we do is we treat the patient, then we worry about how we're getting paid.
Yeah,
Here, that's not how it happens.
pay first.
And you pay first. So, like even with my surgeries, I paid. Well, my teeth I paid last, but with my surgeries, I paid first.
Hmm.
And then it was like, well, that's what you pay. That's fine, but it is. Yeah, you don't want to end up in the national hospital. My oldest daughter, and I went to see him when he was in the hospital because I'm really close with my employees and their kids and all that. So we went and saw him, and my daughter was truly terrified. She's like, I feel like I'm walking in a 1940s horror film. And I was like, yeah, because that's what it felt like. Like everything was rusted, and they were that you don't get a blanket, you don't get a pillow. If you get one, it's because your family brought it in. So that's in the public hospital sector. There's a
Yeah,
whole private hospital sector that deals with people who can afford their services. So
gotcha.
if you're here, you need to make sure that everybody around you knows if you get hurt, if you get in an accident, if something happens and there's an emergency, you need to go to a private hospital.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. All right, so let's talk visa. How difficult
Yeah.
was it to get a visa there?
So getting a visa here is super easy. Basically, you just fly in, and they stamp your passport for 60 days or 90 days. Sorry, they stamp it for 90 days. So you have a 90-day passport. Initially, as a tourist visa, and then the helicopter's still flying. I don't know what he's doing. So you get your first 90 days, and then you can extend it for another 90 days. And then once you extend it, you've been here for that 180 days, you have to hop out of country. Most people just go to the Mexican border and hop out. And then usually they just do it all the same day. They say you have to have 72 hours, but
Hmm.
nobody really, it's whatever.
Yeah,
Um, so for your extension, that's where it can get a little bit different for people. Like for us, we just pay somebody to do our paperwork and take it to the city and stand in line and do our paperwork. So it for us, it costs us $100 a person to do an extension.
gotcha. Okay.
Um, for me, I just don't want to take my kids into the city and deal with that for like, hours with a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
So I just pay for it. But if I was here and it was me and my husband, and we were just here like without the kids to do a visa run, we go into the city, and I think it's like 25 or $30.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And they just stamp it for another 90 days.
Did you need a some kind of like a income requirement to live there? Do you got to show Guatemala that there's a certain amount of money that you're bringing to the
Right.
when you move?
If you want residency here, you do. So you
Okay.
have to go through a residency process. You have to have people, Guatemalans, verify like you're a good person, and they have to write you letters. You have to have income verification. I don't think it's much. I think it's like 1,200 a month.
Okay.
But it's a process, and it can only be like, as I'm being told, it can only be like once. Like, oh yeah, it takes a year to start like the process, and then it's a process. Most people here don't even worry about residency unless there's a reason why they want it. Like
Gotcha.
they have a husband here, they have children. Having a husband or a child here is easier to get your residency, but if they don't want to be hopping out, they're older, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Most people just hop out every 6 months.
Gotcha.
They're, right. So there's not even mail in Guatemala. So it's like sometimes people just hop back into, if you fly into Texas or if you fly into Florida, it's super cheap. Like our tickets here were like less than $50 a person
Okay.
from Florida.
Yeah.
So if you just hop out of country to grab your mail and go see like, your sister or your grandkids or whatever it is,
Hmm.
you go see them for, a weekend, hop back in. That's all people do. I
Gotcha.
would say that at least 90% of people that are here just on tourist visas.
Okay.
Because you
Gotcha.
can live here indefinitely on a tourist visa. You don't have
Sure.
to have residency.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, you said there's no mail there? You don't receive any mail?
There's there's no mail. So, and this like blows my mom's mind constantly. Like she asks me every month, how can I send something to the kids? And I'm like, you can't. Like, so we have DHL, we have FedEx. They are extremely expensive. I sent a little teeny box, and I want to say maybe it was like 6 pounds.
Yeah.
Um, the first year that we were here, and it cost me 150 in shipping for UPS. And then once it got here, then they charged me again to deliver it from the city here, another $100.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So
That's costly.
it's cheaper just to like, mom, send it to Florida and I hop out and go to Florida than
Yeah,
it
and
is
bring
to
it
get
back.
anything here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That is high. That is very high.
Yeah. A lot of times what we have people do, because we have such a tight community here, um, in Antigua and in the city, we'll have like, hey, who's flying home? Can you bring me back a package, or can you bring me back an envelope with my debit card or stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not, those are all the areas that we cover, but it sounds like, you and your family are true adventurers. And
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. I mean, kind of moving to making the choice to move to Guatemala, kind of Antigua sight unseen, and just okay, I think they have what we're looking for, and then just dive into that is just that's adventurous, man. That's pretty awesome. There's not a lot
Yeah.
of people I know that take those kinds of risks. So you're a big risk taker, Angela.
Yeah. I am. I have lived my life that way, and we are definitely already planning more risk. Because the way that we're designing our restaurant, we actually want to expand it. I don't want it to just be in Antigua. I really feel like I I really enjoy having my employees knowing that their kids are taken care of, and like, and it's really the reason why we designed this business was because we had an employee. She was our housekeeper. She came with our house on day one, and I was like, I don't need a housekeeper. And the girl that we were renting from was like, well, if you don't employ her, then she doesn't have a job. And I was like, okay, I guess I need a housekeeper. And so I employed her, and I kind of just fell in love with her kids and her family. And so that's really why we're starting our business, because when we're gone, I still pay her,
Yeah.
because I can't just leave her kids like
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
starving.
great.
So
That's great.
I still pay her. So I'm like, let's create something that when I'm not here, she has a job. She feels like she's contributing to her community, like and so her and her husband are both working for us. They got their health certificates to work in the restaurant, which was a week-long process because everything here's a massive process. And they've been there painting and cleaning and helping us find like suppliers. And so then we're like, cool, we'll get this set up here. And then we have another friend who has a daughter over by the beach. And I'm like, well, if we have a connection there, let's get something set up there for somebody else. And
Yeah. Yeah.
just,
Wow. That's
yeah.
terrific.
So we want to expand it. Yeah.
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 What do you guys do for leisure? I mean, have you done that volcano hike up
I
the active?
haven't.
No?
Well, I haven't because our little ones have always been really little, right? Since we've been here, they're like, my son will turn 4 this month, and then we have a 6-year-old. So
I'm hitting record again. Okay, so yeah, just a couple more questions. So we were talking about hiking up the volcano. That's a big thing in Antigua. I actually did it, and it was a lot of fun. It's obviously you got to be careful. There were people that were roasting marshmallows on the volcano over lava. So people take, so they take marshmallows up and they roast it right over the lava that's flowing right by your toes. So it was
there's
quite an
a
experience.
that has a video that they play in their restaurant. It's called Pappy's. It's a barbecue place. It's a Texas guy who came here and married a Guatemalan woman, and they own this barbecue place. It's kind of like home, in Guatemala, because like country, and it's like country music and barbecue. But they had this video that they play where they took their whole staff up to the volcanoes, and they actually cooked some of their barbecue under, like they dug a hole, put it in there, let it sit for like 6 hours. Yeah,
Wow.
it's really, yeah, but
Yeah,
I
that
haven't
is-
been to a volcano yet. Mostly just because we've had little kids,
yeah.
and but my older girls really want to go, so maybe we'll do that this time. Maybe we'll take one of our friend's son with us too. He's never
Yeah,
done anything.
it's really a wonderful experience. It's a great workout, wonderful experience. So definitely. What do you guys do for leisure right now? What are you guys doing for fun around Antigua?
Antigua, I mean, it's not that exciting. It's a very quiet kind of town. So we mostly just hang out at like restaurants and things like that for us. But there are a lot of like coffee plantations here that you can go tour. Azote is really great. It's got a really nice grounds. On the weekends they have like a beer kind of tent thing that they do, an outdoor beer garden. There's Hobbit Tenango, which is this little like, so this guy bought this property up in the mountains. It had no road, no nothing. It was crazy. They ended up punching this road in, and they made like a Hobbit town, like like little round buildings, like it's totally like a Hobbit area. It's kind of terrifying to get to, I'm not gonna lie. I did it without my husband but I brought all the kids. It was insane. It was like this little truck up like this scary little road with a big cliff, and he's like, another one's coming down and he's throwing it in reverse, and I'm like, we're all gonna die. But once we got up there, it was really cool up there. Really, really pretty.
Yeah.
Amazing views. There's the Echo Lodge. I'm not sure how active they are right now because they're trying to sell, but that place is really cool. Yeah, our kids do sports. So for us, our kids are doing sports every single night, Monday through Friday. So the only day we really can like go out is really Saturday, because Sunday is like getting ready for the next week. So, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
COVID has hurt this area. We have curfews in place. I've heard mixed reasons why we have curfews, but curfews have really hurt the businesses, because everything has to be closed by 9 o'clock now, including on Friday and Saturday, and that means the bars are starting to close down by 8:30 or 30, and that's just hurt everything. That's hurt tourism. That's hurt the businesses. There's been a lot of businesses that have folded, so there's not really a nightlife happening here. Or for the most part, my husband and I have just been like done with going out in the evening, because we can't, by the time we want to go out and like put our kids, like quiet them down or whatever, put them to bed, everything's closed. So that's been kind of hard here. There's places here to horseback ride though, if you wanted to do that. Lots of the coffee plantations, and they're really cool. There's amazing coffee here.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that. Yeah. It's fantastic.
The best. There's also Lake Adelan, which is like, you can get there in an hour and a half without traffic, or 3 hours with traffic. But there's tour buses, so you can come in and do any other tour places here and just get a tour bus to take you. I don't remember how much those are though. I want to say maybe $20 a person and get out to the lake.
Yeah. Okay. Have you guys been to Lake Panajachel?
No.
No. I think it's called Lake Panajachel or something like that. Panajachel.
Is the city on the lake.
I think so. Yeah.
It's called Lake Adelan, and it has, we've been there. It has volcanoes all the way around it. You have to. So we stayed in San Pedro, which is a town across from Pano, or Panachel, which is the town. Is the town that you come into, and you have to take a rickety, scary as hell boat across the lake. The lake is big.
Yeah.
It's not a little. The boat ride was probably one of the most terrifying moments I've ever had as a parent. Like,
I was crying. I had a full panic attack. I was crying. I was holding my babies. It was like, it was terrifying. So know how to swim if you're going to take your boats, those boats, because I was terrified.
Wow.
So, but we made it. We made it across. I don't know. I like Antigua better than the lake. Maybe I just haven't found a spot on the lake. We toured some of the towns on the lake. They're just very touristy, and where I don't feel like Antigua's like that. Antigua feels like you're part of a culture, part of the community. Even when you're walking around, you don't, it's not over touristy, where I feel like the lake can be that way. I'll probably get comments on this though that I'm wrong, because the people that love the lake love the lake.
Yeah. Well, like, yeah, everybody has an opinion and a preference.
Yeah. And I know a lot of retirees like the lake because it's not as busy as Antigua. You know,
Sure.
a lot of people on the weekends come to Antigua. They like their very, very small little communities. So, and there's nothing wrong with the lake. The lake's nice. It's actually really pretty. There's San Marcos is a very hippie town over there. It's not even a town. I mean, it's probably only like, you know, a couple hundred people that live in San Marcos, but they say you walk through the streets of San Marcos and you're just going to get high from the pot of other people.
Oh, wow.
But it just has that vibe, right? Like, so it's like super like pothead, and it's super hippie, and it's super yoga. So if you're into that, go to San Marcos.
How far is that from Antigua?
It's on the lake. So if you go like an hour and a half to the lake, then you have to take a boat over to that town.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. San Marcos.
Yeah, San Marcos. It's one of those places too, you want to get cash before you get there. If I remember right, there's no ATM in their neighborhood or in their community right there. If there is, there's maybe one, and maybe it's like in a shop that gets closed, like, you know, at 4 p.m. or something. I don't know.
Sure. Okay. Well, listen, I have 2 more questions for you.
All right.
What do you like the most about living in Guatemala?
I like the architecture the most.
The architecture of Antigua?
Yeah. I love the architecture. The views are pretty amazing. Like living in this like cave, or they're like this valley of the volcanoes and mountains, is really cool. The weather's always good. Even when it's raining, it's relaxing. The food is very mixed. Like you have, like right now I'm in an Irish pub, so that's kind of cool that you can like have that, and it's like the guy who owns it literally is Irish. Like, so you can have that. You can get tortillas from the girl right at the corner of your street, sitting on the street.
Sure.
That's cool. Avocados are great here.
Yeah.
Fruits, bananas are amazing here. They look like crap. They look like I'm never going to eat that. What truck did that fall off of, and who ran it over? But it's amazing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's my next question. How has this experience living down there, just taking this leap of faith to go live in Guatemala, how has it changed you?
I think that how do I word it? Like what I've seen the most or learned the most being here is that what Americans are told about what's happening in Central America is a lie. It's a lie. So there's poverty here. This is like literally one of in Central and South America, it has the most malnourished children of any other country. So there's definitely issues here. But people aren't, the local people aren't running like we're being told. They love their country. You know, they love their family. This is also, I looked this up, it was random. I was looking up country with the highest divorce rate and country with the lowest divorce rate. And Guatemala has the lowest divorce rate in the entire world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's a deeply religious country. It has, it's very family focused. You know, their kids are very important. Their family is very important. So, and I don't think that the world knows that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just it sounds like you've become better aware of how people perceive their own country down there,
Yeah. People are very patriotic to their country here.
as opposed to what you hear in the U.S.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very different experience.
Right. And I do think opportunities are lacking here. They in Guatemala itself, it needs a lot. I feel like countries that send money to Guatemala, if it was outlined better on how that was dealt with, would improve Guatemala. Right now, I mean, as in any country, a lot goes into the pockets of the politicians, right? That's what happens in countries, you know. Here, they need better roads. They need roads would be amazing. Better roads and better security, because there is problems with that. Yeah, shipping would be a huge thing. They need to get better shipping ports. They need better roads to move commerce around. That would greatly improve Guatemala. And I don't think that is ever talked about within the media. You know, like they talk about people fleeing Guatemala, but they don't talk about what Guatemala needs to get even better.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Angela, maybe that could be like a business
I
or
know.
some kind of consulting that you can do to bring that to their attention, especially the commerce stuff, the way
Yeah.
the world has become. And you're so savvy as far as business and the way that your mind works. It might be an opportunity.
Because like opening up a restaurant here, I've been talking to people. I'm like, okay, so where do we get cheese? You know, I mean, obviously I have a pizza restaurant, so like cheese is like number one, you know, flour and cheese. So I'm like, okay, so where do we do this? And I'm told over and over, go to Price Smart, which Price Smart is like a Costco. And I'm like, why does this like absolutely not make any sense to me? Because I'm told by other restaurant owners, just go to Price Smart. And I'm like, I'm right, like Little Caesars doesn't go to Price Mart, McDonald's doesn't go to Price Mart. Like, who is supplying these? And the chain of being able to figure any of that out is like either the biggest secret that's ever existed in the world, or it just doesn't exist. Because it's like, where's your Cisco? You know, like in the States we have Cisco and they deliver to the restaurants. I'm like, where's your Cisco? No, we don't have anything like that here. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to start something because that's just stupid.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. That's fascinating.
Just getting anywhere is really hard. Getting up to these mountain towns, and some of them you either walk or you get like a mule, or it's just impossible to get to them because the road system here is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and some of that stuff is what makes Guatemala and especially Antigua so unique and so intriguing to so many, because as soon as you start changing the things and, you know, then some of that beauty goes away.
Yeah, it does. It does. And my friend always like, he says I'm on the Gringo Trail. So like in Antigua, you have everything. Like you can literally buy anything here. You have like, in Antigua of 47,000 people, and it's small. So if you see it, if anyone looks up Antigua, you'll see an aerial view, and that literally is the size of our town. So in our town, we have 2 Domino's, we have a Little Caesars, we have a Wendy's, we have a McDonald's, we have a Papa John's, we have Dunkin' Donuts. Like, it's ridiculous what we have here, you know?
Yeah. Well, Angela Alexander, she is an entrepreneur, an expat. She has a restaurant called Wilders or Wielder. What are you going to?
Wilders. Wilders.
Wilders in Antigua, Guatemala. Thank you so much, Angela, for taking the time today to share your experience, and that your journey has been amazing. Just the courage that you and your family have to take the leaps that you've taken. and to land in a beautiful area such as Antigua is really special. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking the time to do that today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, make sure they tell us at our restaurant. If they come into our restaurant, they saw us on here. So
Well, we're going to put all that information at the end of the podcast so that people can read it and see it, so they'll know where to find you guys.
okay.
Well, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you for doing this. Take care and have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.